Alright, so we're now in the aircraft, and this is how we'd expect to find the airplane, probably, in a first flight configuration. So there is power on the airplane, the auxiliary power unit, or APU, is running. However, you'll notice a lot of things are shut down. There's a lot of warnings on the screen here for systems that we don't have at the moment. And just because we don't need them while we're sitting at the gate, the navigation system is not initialized either, so we're gonna have to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do, and again, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this, I am not a trained 777 pilot. I've been trained on the Boeing 737-200, which is a completely different animal. It's a classic airplane. There's very little automation in it. So I've made up a procedure that has worked for me so far on this thing. If there's any real-world 777 pilots out there who are watching, I do apologize for this, but yeah, just bear with me. So first thing I normally do is throw the ADIRU on. That's the inertial navigation system. Gets that aligning. It requires quite a bit of time to align, so get it going as soon as possible. We're going to put the right amount of fuel on the aircraft, which, if I look back at the flight release here, is 89.4. I'm going to put on 89.5 because it provides a little bit of additional for the APU burn while we're waiting. So 89.5, there we go. Alright, and if I go back to our payload here, our zero fuel weight was... Sorry, I just got to switch screens here momentarily. Our zero fuel weight was 457.4. So 457.4. There we go. And as you can see here on the screen, it is initializing, it's aligning. It requires 8.5 minutes to align from now. So that allows us time to program the flight plan, get everything else all going, and we should be good to go. So the ident page, we are in the correct aircraft here, 777-300. The AIRAC cycle is valid. It's valid until April 1st. We have GE90-115 BL1 engines, so those huge engines on the wings. That's the official name for those engines. Position initialization, so it wants me to tell it where it is. The way this airplane's navigation system works is it does update through GPS, but the initial reference is you tell it where it is, and the inertial navigation system kind of tracks the forces on the airplane and says, okay, now we're here, now we're here, now we're here. So if you put the wrong inertial position in here to begin with, you could run into problems. So this is our GPS position right now. That's good enough for me. Throw that in there. Now, ordinarily, on most airplanes, we would have to program this whole thing by hand. Put in the origin, put in the destination, the flight number, put in all the route stuff. It's very, very time-consuming, especially with longer routes. Fortunately, we have what's called a SATCOM data link. So we can actually request this route from satellites from the company, and it'll download the flight plan and put it in there. In the simulator, it just goes from the file that I actually downloaded before I started the recording. So we're going from Toronto to Vancouver. This one here, Toronto to Vancouver, request. It'll take a moment to download it from the satellite. Rather, it simulates taking time to download it from the satellite. The request is sent. Now it's waiting for its flight plan. There we go, a Route 1 uplink ready. So we're going to go ahead and load this Route 1 uplink. Route 1 uplink loading. It'll take just a moment. Alright, there we go. So what it didn't know is it didn't know the departure and the arrival that we're planning on. So let's go into departure, arrival, departure. We're planning on, which one was it again? Let me go back to the flight release here. This is what the flight release is actually for in the aircraft. It's the AVSEP-2 departure. Alright, so this one here, via, first fix on the flight plan is LITMO. So we're going to go with LITMO, and we're planning off a runway 05 for now. That's probably going to change, but for now let's put it in there. And then we'll go to the arrivals. And for arrivals into Vancouver, we're planning on the Canuck 3. So Canuck 3, I'm going to put in the 2.6s because that's going to make the most sense for the direction of flight that we're coming in from. Not going to bother throwing a transition in there. We'll just go through the legs page to make sure there's no breaks in the flight plan. So that looks good, that all looks good. There's one break from Goreg to Agnad. Let's just throw that in there. Get rid of that, and there we go. Activate and execute. So it says performance initialization uplink is ready, so I'm going to go to performance init. Actually, I'll throw a flight number in there first. It's Air Canada. What are we today? Air Canada 137. It's Air Canada 137. Go in there. Go to performance initialization. It's already loaded all the stuff up for us. It just wants us to accept or reject it. What I'm going to do is accept it, and then I'm going to make a couple changes. So I'm going to accept. And then the first thing that we have to do is change the cost index to 27 as per our flight release. And flight level 360 is, I think, yeah, we were going to start with that, so that's fine. And there we go. So that's the performance initialization part. It has all our weights in here, gross weight, the fuel that we have on board, zero fuel weight, reserves. All that's loaded from the flight plan, so that's very easy. Wind data uplink is ready, so we're going to go to legs, route data, load that wind data. So this has the wind information that we looked at before in the flight plan for all the different legs. We're going to execute that so that it knows what the winds are going to be like. And descent forecast uplink ready, so we're going to go to the descent page, forecast, load that up. This is for our descent so that it can predict our descent a little bit better with the winds all the way down. And there we go. So we're going to plan the departure. Now this is the thing, this is the part that's missing on the flight plan. Normally we'd have a page that says, alright, at flaps 5 at this thrust setting you can do this, lift this amount of weight, etc. We don't actually have that, so I'm just going to put in flaps 5 here. If it's not happy with it, then it's going to tell me that. Once it finishes aligning here, it'll say unable performance or something. I'm not exactly sure what it says because I've never had it say that before, but if it determines that we can't take off from that runway because of a length issue, it'll actually tell me about that. So center of gravity from the flight plan there is 26%, which results in a trim of 5.00. I don't know about the 777, but on the 37, that's the ideal trim setting for takeoff. So good job on the loading there, guys. That's well done. So now, we said that we were going to burn 1,400 pounds on the taxi out, so our gross weight is 546.9. If we take 1,400 pounds off of that, it's going to be 545.5, if my math is right. Put that in for our takeoff gross weight. And then for thrust, now there's two ways we can do this. Normally what happens is there's a derated thrust that's applied. And the reason for that is because going at full pull all the time, we call it full pull, means max thrust, you're actually exceeding the limitation on the engine. Not the limitation, there's a contingency for pulling 102% for a certain amount of time, usually 5 minutes. But if we want to be a little bit easier on the engine, extend the life on the engine, and we don't need max performance, we can always do a reduced thrust takeoff, so it just saves wear and tear on the engine. There's two ways to work out a reduced thrust takeoff. There's either a temperature derate or a flat, what do they call it? I think just a flat derate. And it depends on which one you want to use. In our airplanes, we don't have the capability of doing the flat derate, so we always use temperature. However, if we go to thrust limb here, we can do a 20% takeoff derate. And off Toronto, that's probably fine because we're not doing a large overseas flight. We're not particularly heavy today. Actually, 500, yeah, we're like 150,000 pounds under our max takeoff weight, so off Toronto, you know what, let's just do a 10% derate there, and it'll derate climb 1 as well. So we're just taking a flat 10% off the takeoff thrust for that. So we don't need an actual thrust temperature derate. We're using takeoff 1. So now we just have to wait for the Adiru to align before we can continue, so we'll go ahead and wait for that.